You're about to witness a seismic event.
You are now fucking with Skitbags Radio.
Get your protection, bitches!
Nah, we can't use that. Nah.
Excuse me, madam. Papers, please. Miss Kiera, your papers are out of order. Are you a skitbag Russian spy? Welcome to Skitbags Radio. We in the house tonight. We got Russian spies and everything from top to bottom. We go from Putin to Trump, and we take it to a place where your body always has to take a big dump. Get it on right. Welcome to Skitbags Radio. I'm Mr. CD Enforcer, a.k.a. Papi Carlito. And I'm going to let the rest of the crew, six in the house, introduce themselves and let them tell you how they feel today. I'm going to bring it to the right from the lady who don't play and tell them how to make it sway. What you say, girl?
Well, hello there, everyone. I'm Gabby Shake, and I am feeling good today. How about you, Neil?
Cheer. Yo, it's Neil in the crib, you know. Life Neil the Great.
Life of Neil the Great, and coming at you from around the bend, Sailor Dev in the house. What up? We're broadcasting from Dash Radio in Hollywood, California. And we have the most illustrious guest in the studio with us today, Mr. Corbin Hayes. Yo, Corbin, say what up to the fam.
Yo, what up, what up?
Yeah.
Chill.
There you go.
That's right. One more time.
Dude, Carl, first of all, I say this like every time, but Carl, you fucking killing the game on the improv.
That was incredible.
Like,
you,
yeah,
guys.
absolutely incredible introduction. So before we get into asking Corbin a little bit about his career, his music preferences, his persona, his talents, his abilities, everything, we always start off every episode with a breakdown of a movie or TV show. And today we are going to break down all things superhero and comic books. I know we come at you guys a lot with this, but it's only because A, it's so awesome, and B, that it has such an impact on the entertainment industry so far. So,
Definitely.
Where do you guys want to start with this? How about this, Corbin? What are some of your favorites? How do you think these films and music have been related? And like, what's your take on this new, basically genre? That's
Yeah, I was
only
just
been
about to say that.
Yeah, it's definitely its own genre for sure. I mean, for me, Spider-Man's always been my favorite, starting with the comics.
Who's your favorite Spider-Man?
Probably the most recent, only because
My boy Tom.
was not an Andrew Garfield fan.
Yeah, the most recent one is,
But
it's pretty good.
Yeah, Tom Holland, he's good.
Yeah.
He's good. I think he does a good job. They portray him pretty well. But yeah, I mean, if we're staying inside of Marvel's universe, I'd say it goes Spider-Man, and then Iron Man, and Captain America. But then you can't count out Hulk, though, because Hulk can never die.
Yeah.
So he might be the ultimate superhero.
Yeah, I've always been I'm Spider-Man all the way. I haven't even thought of number two. I really haven't. I because when you started watching or getting into like comics and so forth, you were younger. Spider-Man is like the only like teenage superhero, really, right? Like the one that's like that's like in the game. You're not just some other younger ones.
And
you
he
know
was
what I
the
mean?
most non-serious one. Like he was the only one really like cracking jokes mid-fight. Like he'd be about to die. Like, oh man, your pants are down. You know, everybody else is kind of serious, kind of intense. The Hulk is not really a funny dude. You know what I mean? He didn't even. I mean, his comic books, I don't think he talked. It was just like thoughts.
No. And I also just I like the way the character Spider-Man, even no matter who the actor is or the comic book itself, I like the way his movements are like very fluid. He's always like flying through stuff or like just like you know like fitting through cracks and while he's falling, he's pretty smooth with it. Even though he crashes and so forth, he kind of like it's like gracefully like he's like
he's like the Matrix without being the Matrix kind of thing.
Exactly, like even like the Infinity War, there was a pretty cool action sequence and he's like going through all like the things flying through and he's like pulling getting through it and shit like that. Like it's pretty dope. I like the way they in terms of like in the film they've been trying hard. Spider-Man, you know what I mean? Like there's like 8 Spider-Man movies.
Well, and he was the first, right? He was the first Marvel movies
that they brought out, and they were like, all right, we're trying to make money for real. Yeah, he is the first one.
Well, remember that was all Sony.
Yeah.
That was a different company than Marvel. Like,
But it was still
Sony
Marvel
bought
was
the
still there.
rights.
Yeah,
They bought the
yeah,
rights,
yeah.
but like that's why they had creative control over that stuff. It wasn't until the recent Avengers and Homecoming where all of it has been brought under one roof.
Right.
Yeah, I think like the beginning of the whole MCU is with Iron Man, right? That's
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah,
when
Iron
like
Man
they
was
start
the
doing it.
first.
Yeah, like that's when they start taking it. Like, well, yeah, that has to be like that's like the beginning from all the timelines, because if you brought it, because now you wouldn't be able to explain the Tobey Maguire timeline because it kind of doesn't make sense.
No, yeah,
you know what I mean? That's why they say that the MCU kind of begins with Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the most recent Spider-Man that's done a pretty good job. They've done it because Spider-Man's supposed to be like a kid out of school, and the ones with
It's
Tobey
written
Maguire.
for him to be younger.
Yes,
Whereas
exactly.
like
And
Tobey Maguire was like what 30 when
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
did.
yeah. No, he's supposed to be
Like-
like 14, 15.
Yeah.
And even the other guy, and he was younger and whatnot, but like he didn't have like just the innocent, like the most recent one I think is the best. And also
Andrew-
yeah.
I love Andrew Garfield and other stuff that he's done, but in that Spider-Man, I mean, no knocks to Andrew, but in reality, man, he was like the bad boy on the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
He was like trying to be the bad boy
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the good
like,
boy universe.
He's trying to revamp his characters when he comes back out with that Good Boy album in a couple of years. It's like, oh, he was Spider-Man. He's such a nice boy. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna be real nice to your daughter.
Yo, I got a question. Who did he fight in his Spider-Man movie?
Andrew Garfield?
Yeah.
He had
Who?
Jamie Foxx.
Who's
No,
Right.
Jamie Foxx is with Tobey Maguire in the last
No, I
one.
thought that was Andrew Garfield.
That's
That's Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
Oh, did he do two?
what was he like, an Electro character?
Yeah, he was the Electro guy. You know that's Jamie Foxx's highest grossing film.
Really?
What? I can
Pretty sad.
picture. Look, let me tell you something from the underground black delegation. Usually, the best movies that pay most African American actors, even the biggest ones through times, are really usually the non-black films that they do. It's usually the big ones. I mean, Halle Berry didn't pop them movies out until it was for like Swordfish or something. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
Swordfish.
Like 20, 30 years. You're the most beautiful black woman in the world. I said, you're so beautiful. She's like, but you won't see these ever. 'Cause you don't got. So. That's
Halle
the
Berry
game.
also superhero.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, we'll forget about Catwoman. We'll stick with Storm.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Storm
But
fits.
yeah, Storm fits way better. But in terms of like my favorite superhero that they've brought to the fucking screen, it's Ant-Man, hands
Yeah.
fucking down. I
Yeah.
think he's my. I know I'm supposed to say Black Panther, right? But no, fucking I think the Ant-Man movies. I didn't even know who the fuck Ant-Man was. I thought this guy. I thought these guys are now they're wearing it thin. Okay, now they're trying to make anyone into a hero. But aside from the Deadpool movies, which are supposed to be like really like vulgar and like funny, whatnot. The Ant-Man movies are the funniest ones out of the MCU.
Yeah.
Like out
Yeah.
of all of them, like their movies are like the good contrast of actual like all out comedy and a good story. Michael Pena just kills it in each of the movies.
Yeah, it
each
came
of the
along
movies.
like at the right time too, because you had the technology has advanced so much that you can now make the movies. So I remember them from when I was a kid. I remember there was an Ant-Man and the Wasp, but to me it was like it wasn't that exciting to me except for in the books. But you could never make a movie to do it any justice. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You couldn't. It's almost like how when Michael Jordan came around, just as TV and everything really kind of linked across the world. So that's why he's really the greatest dude with the shoes. But if he came,
it's the timing.
it was the timing.
Like the
And
Will Smith thing, it's the timing.
Yeah, it's the timing. I feel like it's that with this Ant-Man thing. Like they came along right at the perfect time where the technology's hitting. The crowd is big enough where everybody's watching these movies, not just the nerd dudes that get angry because you got one toe out of line. You know what I mean? So or it's just not serious enough. You know what I mean? Now they got that big crowd. It's just right at the perfect time. Disney just bought everybody's soul.
And
you know
low
what
key,
I mean? It's perfect.
and they also have one like the best cast out of all like the superhero
it's
movies.
good.
They have Michael Douglas out of the grave. Like I don't even know this guy was I was like, oh, this is his last movie. Like,
Top
I was
10
like,
all-time
You have
act of
Michael
Michael
Douglas.
Douglas.
You have Paul Rudd who refuses to age. Okay, you have Kate from Lost. Y'all forgot about Kate from the show Lost, but she's on it now.
One of the first crushes I ever had.
Michael Pena, who murders the role as like the friend who does like the voiceover. Like that's one of like the most iconic. Like I've never seen that in the movie before. He was like, "Yo, I got this homie." Yeah,
Have
that-
you seen the second one yet?
Oh yeah,
That,
dude,
that
it's
scene,
so good.
so Edgar Wright originally had the script, and so that first opening scene of Ant-Man is all him. Like
Really?
Edgar Wright, the director, yeah.
Oh,
So that's
shit.
why it's done like that. It's like very Shaun of the Dead,
Yeah, yeah,
Hot Fuzz kind of thing.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And they have T.I. in it. T.I. is located is one of the members.
Yeah.
In the sequel, they brought in Michelle Pfeiffer and someone else, Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
Like the cast for that movie is solid.
Yeah.
And who's the bad guy in the other one? He was a good actor too.
Oh, in the first one, it's the guy that's in House of Cards.
Yeah. And the villain in this one is the guy from Vice Principals. That guy's hilarious.
Yeah.
The other guy was like,
Who is he? I love him in everything.
and everything
he
he has like that southern accent.
Yeah, no.
He
He
goes
also
in.
he has his own show. He has an was it like an outlaw show where he where he's like a cop or
No.
sheriff or something?
He was first of all, I think he's from the Shield, right? He's from the Shield. He's the guy that was his original show. He's the guy from Michael Chiklis. Was that his name on the Shield?
Was he the guy that came to the basketball game that time? That guy? No. Not the main guy from the Shield. That was like the guy that ran it.
Yeah, the main like white cop, balding. You know what I mean?
Right.
His sidekick on the show was is this guy that we're talking about.
Okay.
That's him. And then he did another cop show as well. And then I think he
Walton Goggins.
Yeah,
That's
Goggins.
his name.
Yeah.
He's on like
That's
a list
a
of
name.
on that list of actors that you know by face, but
not by
will never
name.
know their name.
And him and Vice Principals. Have you seen Vice Principals?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. His dialogue in every fucking scene is hilarious.
He's just a great actor, man.
And
One of the things I really liked about this part of the MCU, and I want to tie this into the new trailers that were just dropped on Comic-Con. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but so the MCU is widely considered as being the light of the two of between Marvel and Disney. Like MCU is like the one who doesn't take themselves too seriously. They crack jokes. It's lighthearted, and Ant-Man would be like the lightheartedest of those. You know, so that's kind of why it's fun. It's a fun movie to watch, you know?
definitely.
And when you watch a lot of the DC stuff, it's all dark. It's so dark that it's bled into pop culture where Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool would make, oh my God, you're so dark. Are you sure you're not from the DC universe?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like he'll make jokes like that. And I'm like, okay, that's a good point. Like, granted, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, amazing.
Amazing.
All right?
Man.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Dude, the Dark Knight is an all-time,
Right.
maybe a top 10 movie of all time.
But
like,
you look at the other stuff of what they're trying to do now. They're trying to bleed off of that without Chris Nolan leading the charge.
Yeah, come on, man.
He really can't because
do
it
it.
has like a unique signature. So what dropped this past week at Comic-Con was two trailers that I really, really am looking forward to. One is Shazam.
I can't wait for that
Did you
one.
guys
came out
see
then.
that?
Yeah, it looks so good.
Yeah, it looks hilarious and amazing. And what I tell people is, I think we talked about this last week, but it was like big as a superhero.
Yeah.
Like Tom Hanks is big, but as a superhero.
He,
You know?
in the trailer, he's like, "You're bulletproof." He was like, "I'm bulletproof."
Who's that actor?
You're dead.
You're dead.
You're dead.
You're dead, Obi.
Yo, he's the dude from Chuck.
Yeah,
Remember the show
He's
Chuck?
the guy from Chuck. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
But yes.
and it's I just remember back when I was younger, you played the video games versus like DC versus Marvel, whatever. I just remember his character in the game. He could do everything. Like he was like he looks the most powerful. He has like the cape and they have like the freaking goal. I was like, oh, I wonder what his backstory is. You know, I just wondered. And I found out the backstory is that he's really just a kid. He just says Shazam and he turns. Oh, come on. That sounds like
And you
so much
don't
fun.
really, you don't need the origin story to be that prophetic to have the character in the movie work. Like it's almost like all right, we're making a jump here by like a wizard granting him these powers. All right, let's just speed through that and let's get to what actually happens. And like that's what's entertaining.
Yeah.
And the other thing that dropped here is you guys see Aquaman.
You know what?
that looked pretty
I haven't seen that trailer yet. You know, I'm not like too excited. Like, I don't
It's
know.
what you expect. I mean, but it put like this. It's good, but it's also what you expect. You expect it to look Greek goddess. You expect it to look, real flowing. You expect it. It's like Thor underwater, basically.
Yeah,
That's all.
well,
That's a good analogy.
yeah.
Do we get a nice ab shot?
Oh, there's tons of the ab shots. Hey, one of the guys looking like one of them Killmonger guys got the bumps all over him while he's
yeah.
doing
I've
this
seen
Aquaman thing and everything. So
we call it,
get a little white conda up in there
Okay.
too.
White Conda.
White Conda.
Jesus.
Hold on. Did you guys see the trailer for Titans? The TV show.
No,
That they have
but
going
I
out?
heard that was amazing.
Dude, okay,
coming
so
out.
I'm watching. I was watching. There's a trailer for Titans, right? And I'm like, all right, I wonder what this is, right? And it's Robin, right?
It's Teen Titans.
No, it's
No.
Yes, it
not
is.
Teen
Yes,
Titans. It's
It's-
grown up
I
Titans.
guess
No,
it's like a mature
no.
version, huh?
But it's like it's like
It's like
it's
after
Teen
their
Titans.
teens.
Yeah, it's like after
It's,
the teens.
it's Grayson, Nightwing's
Yeah.
team that he puts together after Batman is
Oh,
like
dude, I saw some
retired.
kind of
So it's
picture
all-
about that.
in,
Okay,
in the
yeah.
first like 30 seconds of the trailer, like it's like a crime scene. Then all of a sudden, like the star comes out, and the guy's like, "Oh no, it's Batman." Then Robin's like, beats him up,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Fuck Batman."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah,
"What?
yeah,
This is where
Nightwing.
this is where we're
Yeah,
going at?"
yeah,
And then,
yeah.
dude, it looks like the violence is like kick-ass violence,
Nice.
like cutting throats open, like
Ooh,
it's like
nice,
gory as
nice.
hell.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Oh!" And then when I saw Titans, I'm like, "Oh, it's Teen Titans," because
Really mature.
because I remember because the thing that broke it for me is like, no, on Teen Titans was that one girl who's like dressed like in black
Yeah.
or whatnot, like
Raven.
yeah.
Yeah, the
And I
real
was
weird
like,
chick.
where have I seen this kind of like hero before? And I was like, And at the end it said
there
Titans, and I
Starfire
was
and
like,
Beast Boy?
oh, it's Teen Titans. Yeah, it's the whole
Nice,
thing,
nice.
and it's a show. It's a show. It's not a movie.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a show.
Oh,
it's gonna
TV
be it's gonna be
show.
on Netflix.
Netflix original.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
That's
Check
kinda
it out
cool.
Netflix.
And the one things I've never liked about like the Marvel shows that have come out on Netflix is because they all feel to be like PG-13. This feels like it's about to be rated R and gory as hell. Like I would watch this. It looks really really good.
You know, one of my favorite uses of music, which is kind of the thread of today's episode, that I really loved in the MCU was from Infinity War. And the whole movie is scored with like a John Williams-esque score. You know, it's epic. It's you know,
Yeah.
it's original composition. It's not anything really pulled from modern day pop or anything like that. But one of the things
Except
I love
for the Guardians of the
that's
Galaxy.
exactly what I was going to point out is when it switches over to shoot Guardians for the first time and it's close up on Chris Pratt's face and he's singing in the headphones while he's driving his ship.
When is this in Avenger?
Infinity
War.
Wars?
Isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
It's,
Again.
it's Rubber Band Man, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
the song? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Which is hilarious because he's like jamming out and it changes the whole tonality of the film.
Yeah.
Because you think right before that, like you just saw
was
the
serious.
opening of the movie just was serious.
It was
like,
Loki
tragedy just struck.
getting murdered, right?
Yeah, a bunch of shit popped off.
Yeah.
Like the whole setup for the whole movie.
That's one thing I did like about the movie was that it got right off top. It was we were right in it. Like
Yeah,
right
yeah,
in,
yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
think within the first like 10 minutes we see Spider-Man looking outside of a school bus. And he's like, "Yo, dude, cause a diversion." And he jumps out the side and that like we're right into the action right there.
Good. They didn't play with it.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, it was good.
Corbin,
They
what's your favorite music from a like not just the MCU but any comic book films?
Ooh. I'd have to say the Dark Knight series. I mean, it's Hans Zimmer, so
Yeah,
it's
that's right.
automatically going to be good. And the thing that he's so good at doing is just creating themes. I mean, if you look at all the movies he's done and the overall theme for that movie, it's always amazing. So I'd have to say that for sure.
Isn't he like a corner with him and Hans Zimmer as what's called Brahms? Is that the
Yeah. I mean, I think he's probably made that sound famous for sure. I mean, like Shutter Island, that whole like
Inception. Inception uses that.
crazy cello brass thing he does that's completely synthetic but sounds insane. Yeah.
It was funny because we were just talking about this on spoiler and shameless plug alert. I just recorded an episode before we got on the air today with you guys. Film history, the history of film, out on the Skitbags network. Google it and available on all platforms. But today's episode was all about scores, movie scores,
Cool.
and we talked about the history of how scores came in,
Yeah.
and we talked about Hans Zimmer really being like Hans Zimmerman and what's Christopher Nolan are the John Williams and Steven Spielberg of today,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
to some metaphor, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about that. Like the iconic sounds that
Yeah.
you remember when you think of like a film scene that you like hear
Yeah.
it playing in the back of your head.
Again,
you
it's
know?
just like that theme thing. Like John Williams is great at creating this theme that when you hear that sound and that melody, you're automatically thinking of the movie that it pertains
Yeah.
to. You know, and yeah, as a composer, I think it's pretty hard to do because there's only so much you can do as creating music for film because you don't want it to take over what's happening on screen. You know, you're supposed to be in the background for the most part.
Yeah.
Well, like
One thing I
go
wanted
ahead.
to mention was, in terms of scoring, one thing I do hate when it comes to like film scoring is I hate when they score like a lighthearted moment. You know what I mean? I rather, you know what I mean? It's like. Dun, 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 dun. It's like
That is kind of cheap.
Like it does, like it has its place and maybe like in a comedy maybe sometimes, but
Yeah.
I hate it when it's like a serious tone film and then the lighthearted one's like. Boom, 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 boom. Like, I hate when it does that shit. I hate it. Like it almost like they don't do it so much in movies, but they'll do it in TV shows a lot. They'll do it like in a really
They do it
hardcore
on
like
Star Wars.
Yeah.
They do it in Star Wars a lot.
Yeah,
When,
it's
there's
like-
a moment with them and like a little animal or them in R2 or something like
Right.
that.
But like
they do kind of do that. a
But
little
Star
bit.
Wars doesn't have like that. Like even though it's serious, I don't want to get any hate. You know what I mean?
Damn
But like,
right, it's serious.
but it's not like you get the difference between like it's not like gangster violence serious as towards like it's more like fantasy serious.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate it when I'm watching like a serious like gritty crime story, and
like
then
the
there's like a lighthearted
Untouchables
moment.
with like Migos coming in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just like and it's like, oh man, like I hate when it falls off. So most of what I'm trying to say is like a score helps keep like the whole link of the film together.
Right.
Yeah.
And once
Yeah.
you break that piece off, you lose my suspension of disbelief.
No, I can do without the jolly fanfare as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That compares to like laugh tracks on a comedy
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
I don't want to hear a laugh track ever.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like that studio fake laugh?
If it's a classic TV show,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah, it
but
works, but,
Nowadays, I just don't do.
You
laugh
know,
tracks.
and one of the things I love Kathy Bates, but super disappointed by Disjointed from Netflix, her weed show on Netflix because
It has
they don't film it in front of a studio audience, but it's not a multicam show; it's a single cam show, but they add a laugh track to
Really?
it.
And what
and
is
it's
this?
like, hey, laugh here is what like the network and the producers are telling you, and I'm just
And
like,
what
It's
is
this
this?
show Disjointed. You know, it's like the weed show on
Disjointed,
Netflix.
Yeah,
Oh.
with Kathy Bates. She runs a legal
Dispensary.
medical dispensary.
It
here in
almost
Illinois.
it's almost filmed like Full House. It's like
Yeah.
it's like as lit like it's Full House, but
Yeah.
it's they're cursing and it's about weed and shit
And
like
then
that.
throw a
It
laugh
looks
track.
like it belongs on CBS, but it's not.
Weird.
But anyway, so Corbin, we brought you here because I want to get your insight into the industry. But before we dive into your thoughts and what's going on, I wanted to have our listeners give a little bit insight into your background. Like, where did you start with music? Did you play instruments at first? And what's led you out here to LA, man? 'Cause
Yeah,
you're from
I mean,
Tampa, man.
I
from
am
my
from
hometown.
Tampa,
We gotta rep the
813,
813. Yeah, you, me, and Gabby up in this building.
Yeah.
See,
All of
shut
the
up, you Philly and Jersey people.
Up
for
in here,
us.
deep
Tampa's
like
in
the real
building.
Migos. Three
Tampa's-
deep like
yeah.
Migos.
Yeah, there we
Lambo.
go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I started out like a lot of kids. You know, they were forced or willingly went into playing piano and instruments and that kind of thing. And I took lessons for like 2 years and hated every minute of it. Did it just because I wanted to make my parents and grandparents happy that I was playing an instrument, right? And so then I stopped playing for a long time, played sports, did that whole thing. And then got to college. You know, I pretty much at that point had taught myself guitar, picked piano back up in high school, and was just teaching myself, watching endless amounts of YouTube videos and learning how to play via the internet, basically. And then in college, I floundered around, and my parents weren't pretty happy with that because I came home after the first year and told them I wanted to be like a world-renowned ceramics artist. And like, this is no joke, man. I came home and I had boxes of vases and teapots and it was like a real thing for me. And I mean, I still live my life to the same way in that, like, I just want to do something I'm passionate about. And it just happened that the first class I took as an incoming freshman at the school I went to, which was Eckerd College, which is a tiny liberal arts college with 2,000 students. I did this orientation class that was about exploring musical instruments through clay. And so I took the clay ceramics part too seriously, I think, for the first year. And just, you know, went all in this art world, and eventually discovered that music was more important than ceramics, which was probably a good thing.
Man, I think you just watched Ghost too many times.
Yeah, dude, I don't know what it was.
It's like, Dad, I want to be a caveman.
Yeah.
I want to make pottery like a freaking caveman.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do with my life, Dad.
Yeah, so, after the second year I came home and I told them that I'm switching to music, so the drop jaw kind of came off the floor a little bit, but...
See, that's the right strategy, though.
Yeah,
you gotta do. You gotta give them something.
Yeah, give them the
way on the
craziest
fringe
thing,
and then pull back.
We bring it back a little bit.
Like,
yeah. So we made this compromise, and
Anyways.
I did business management and music and what have you, and I don't know. I took theory classes and that kind of stuff, but I'm still to this day pretty much a self-taught musician, I guess you could say. But yeah, I throughout college and coming out here, I just made some really good connections. Got hooked up with a couple of guys over at Disney, and strangely enough, Disney is like this huge part of my life and my family's life that we go like 4 times a year still to this day. And when I was growing up, I would go after school and on weekends, and so now I had this. Yeah, it's a very much a Florida thing,
Really? You guys are going to
Like-
Disney World after school?
Told you, I used to skip school and go to Disney all the time.
Yeah.
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 Well, you get as Florida residents, we get season pass holders. Like they offer specials where like you can buy like 1 ticket and get the whole year unlimited access for the cost of 1 ticket.
Yeah.
So and you get some mad discounts when you're a Florida resident there. But you gotta also think it's only an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Tampa. So
Yeah,
it's the
close.
equivalent of when fighting traffic here. It's easier to go to Disney from Tampa
Yeah.
to Orlando than it is to leave Hollywood and go, I don't know,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
No, we were like that with Atlantic City and Six Flags. 'Cause they're
Yeah,
both
we-
about 45 minutes
yeah.
from
We
Philly.
had Atlantic City.
Yeah.
You know,
You
45
guys-
minutes away.
You guys had Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
had Disney World. And we had the land of make believe. Have you heard of that place?
No.
Oh,
We have Epcot. We have the whole world, man.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
You have the land of make believe.
Yeah.
So what happened when you got linked up with the Disney folks out here?
So I did 2 remixes. One was actually a video remix, similar to this guy. I don't know if you've probably seen his stuff on YouTube. His name's Pogo.
DJ Pogo. Yeah. He
He
does the mix-
did
the political
like
stuff.
a bunch of old Disney movies. He'd like put them all together and make crazy sounds with them, and so they brought me on to just do a promotional video for Monsters University that was similar to that, and so that was released on their YouTube, which then in turn got me another remix job that was doing an actual remix of a track, and that was from Frozen. It was Let It Go.
Do they play that at the parks? Because I would
So
definitely
yeah,
do
they
that.
played
Frozen
it
remix.
when the movie was in its heyday, in the height of all that. They were playing it during their like little
Play
DJ
parade.
things.
Oh my gosh.
So the like
That's
DJ
amazing.
things where they would set up a DJ booth in the park somewhere. They'd play it. But yeah, they released it commercially. It's on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. I don't really know how well it tracked or not, but these were all just like stepping stones for me to like get farther and farther along with them and gain the connections with them. I did an internship in the music department with a company called Motion that is an advertisement in Trailer House, and they have a close connection with Disney, doing all of their trailers and stuff for the movies coming out. And so during that time, I met some people down in Miami, funny enough. So here I am in LA from Florida. Now I'm going to go back to Florida. Spent 2.5 years there, and that was actually probably the best decision I had made, because when I was out here, I wasn't really doing anything full time. I was getting projects every like 6 months, however long. And so I got a full-time offer in Miami to be a composer and music supervisor for an entire documentary unit inside of Univision. And so throughout my time there, we did 2 full-length documentaries. We did a documentary series that aired on HBO, and the series was cool. It was geared towards millennial Latin Americans living in the United States, and so it was kind of trying to give them this look at Latin America through the eyes of a millennial. So it was I'm not supposed to say, but it's like Vice on HBO. But it was a lighthearted Vice. It wasn't going deep into the dirty, nitty gritty stuff that Vice does. It was more colorful for sure. So I did music for that, and I supervised the music for the entire series. So it was cool while I was there because I pretty much had full control over all the music going into the docs and stuff like that. So it gave me this time to grow really, really quickly and experience, which I think was like probably the luckiest thing that I've had come into my life, because I think there's a lot of people that, would work for a long time before they would get that. So I definitely...
This industry is definitely luck and who you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, for sure. I mean, my entire career is based on who I know. And, I think nowadays, like the degree and all that's basically just the ticket into the door. I mean, you've got to work and hustle and do it all yourself, for sure. And so I did 2.5 years in Miami and moved not because the industry was better out here for me. I just I couldn't live in Miami anymore. Like staying up till 6 a.m, going to work at 9, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday every week was not easy.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Hold on a second. So in Miami, from Wednesday, it's just cracking from Wednesday on.
It cracks every day.
Yeah.
They say Miami's like they make it seem like it's worse than LA. Like they say it's like you almost have no choice if you live there. Like it's kind of like Mickey Mantle Gene situation. Like if somebody offers, you have absolutely no choice.
Yeah.
And they're all from Tampa. The poor things never had a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy. It's a cool place though. I mean, it's definitely like that tourist town kind of thing, especially on the beach. But it's also it's like they call it the closest country to the United States because it's almost like the capital of South America. It's this crazy influx of...
Really?
It's an international city.
Yeah,
it's really
I mean, there's...
not anything American, truthfully.
But it's really cool because the first
wild.
language pretty much is Spanish.
Yeah.
And so while you're living there, you are forced to somewhat know how to speak Spanish.
Oh man.
Why didn't you do any music for Coco?
For Coco, yeah, I don't know. They actually the composer they used, who they've used on a few films, he pretty much, when he scores a film, he doesn't usually use any outside help. So, I mean, you have to be on his project, as his assistant to be able to be a part of it.
How much did living in Miami and being from Florida influence your composition? Because there's a ton of Latin American.
Yeah,
I'm Cuban myself, and you said you worked at Univision. I'm like, did you put Buena Vista Social Club in that bitch? Like,
Nah.
what's up?
I mean, during that documentary series, I took a lot of influence from kind of Andean music influence. So, things with a charango, which is like a, I think it's an 8-string guitar that's from like Chile and stuff like that. So, I mean, and that was the cool thing about this show is that I was given this music budget to then go search for artists that were up and coming in Latin American countries to feature in the show, and that's pretty much what we did. I mean, we got our theme music done by a guy named Nombe, who has a hit song now, I think, like on Alt Nation and that kind of thing. And then I had some other artists that I found on SoundCloud, basically, and I just reached out to them and like, hey, you want to be in this show? We can give you so and so for it, and it's just exposure for you. And everybody was pretty much all on board for it. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, the influence that it has now, I'm not sure, because for the most part, scoring and producing, it's all project based. I mean, I think once you get to a certain point, you can be the person that says, this is how I'm going to do it, kind of thing. But yeah, for me, it was just at that time I had the ability to research Latin American music and put it into a score setting, which was cool.
Oh, nice. Oh, so I have a question. Carl Anthony reporting from Conda News. And so as a janky music producer that I am, I've dealt with a lot of crazy artists, dealing with musicians from up and down, all kinds of people, you know what I mean, make you not want to have kids.
Right.
So when you were recruiting the artists, did you have any just total nut jobs? Were there any horror story people that you came across trying to recruit artists?
No, honestly, not really. I think there was some artists that just didn't work out because they were asking for, outrageous things.
Wait. So was there like some nobody dude that's like, how about 400 billion?
Yeah, I mean, there was
all green M&Ms.
Yeah, well, it was like I want I want this, amount to start, and then I want this amount in perpetuity. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not
All right.
We'll just move on. We'll find somebody else.
Block his email.
But yeah, and funny, you're talking about like artists and like artist management and stuff, and that's actually another part of my full-time job out here is I run a recording studio in like Beverlywood, Culver City area. Actually, the guy that started it is from Tampa, so it's like this. Yeah, there's a lot of Tampa
We're taking
in
over.
LA. It's
We're
very
taking
strange.
over Hollywood.
You guys are like the Beatles.
By the way,
Jesus
shout out to another Tampa member. Have you ever heard of the band Vintage Trouble?
Vintage Trouble? No, I haven't.
So they opened for The Who and the Rolling Stone on their last international tour.
Wow.
And the bass player is a good friend of mine, Rick Dill. Rick. And Rick was a computer engineer in Tampa, and then he owned his own recording studio in Tampa, which I recorded my first rap track at a fucking all-boys Catholic school for a school project when I was like 13 years old.
Yes.
But anyways, now he's the bass player in the band, very successful, but he's out here
Awesome.
as well. So like you talk about like, I don't know, there's something unique about Florida, and like, yeah, okay, we produce Florida man stories. I get it. Those are what make headlines.
Florida Man from ATL.
Yeah, no, like, yeah, the fucking crazy shit where you see like a gator eating a baby and people smoking bath salts and eating faces off, and like,
Florida's
there's
crazy.
a lot of crazy stuff. But with that crazy comes like such a unique environment that like your creativity flourishes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's the vibe, maybe it's a combination of all these factors.
The
But
desire to escape Florida.
yeah, oh man,
Well,
that's a big part of it right there.
There's an episode of Donald Glover's show called ATL in which they're like, the guy's like, yeah, well, I'm going to move to Florida. He goes, oh shit, really? Well, you know about Florida Man, right? Who? Florida Man? No, I don't know who Florida Man is. Well, fucking watch the news, boy. It's like, yo, yesterday when an alligator was found inside someone's house, there was a Florida Man. And it was like, the other day in the news, a Florida man shut up a store. And it was like, yo, night, a Florida man kidnapped all these kids. Like, watch out for Florida Man.
But nobody. Here's the thing: those all make headlines, but nobody speaks on the Florida man composing movies for Disney,
Right.
or like the Florida man touring with the Who and the Rolling Stone, or the fucking Florida man hosting a radio show with his co-hosts over here being fucking bomb as shit on Dash Radio.
Oh, you know why? Because none of you are in Florida. It's like, this guy Devin from California. This guy's a California guy. He looks Florida-like, but we're going to give him California. It's safer.
Yo, we all still have 813 numbers.
I have,
all of us.
That's true.
I have Made in Tampa Bay tattooed on me, so that'll always be there.
Nice. Won't regret that when you're 80.
It's like a t-shirt tag. One of like right in the back here. It's like real short. Like
You guys popping fun because I think I'm so jealous about Miami, bro. Like, you talk about like, oh, you see some nice chicas with a fat ass walking around in a thong and a topless beach. How many topless beaches are in California?
hold on, time out.
Do they have
Hold on,
topless?
time
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I didn't hear this part yet.
Yeah,
What?
see? Turn around.
Hold on,
All right.
South Beach is topless.
There's
All
some
of, all
section,
of the beach, pretty much up until Fort Lauderdale, I think is all topless.
Wow, really?
Dun, dun,
You guys need to push this more. Right after the Florida man story,
right? Yeah, push
like,
this
okay,
more.
Florida man gets eaten by an alligator trying to feed alligator
At the
a
new
live
beach.
chicken. But there is
In the
topless
background,
beaches
there
in
was
the
just a
state.
woman running naked
Yeah.
in the back.
Right? There's just like, but
with,
let's
with,
remember.
with another Florida man.
Let's remember.
Yeah, with an alligator on a leash. All right. Anyway, so what else out here, man? Since you've been out here and now you've worked with Disney, what are some of your favorite projects that you've done so far? And honestly, specifically, I want to reference your IMDb of what's going on with Cars 3, man.
Yeah.
What'd you do with that?
So that was, what was that, like a year ago? I did a track for Cars 3 for the main antagonist, Jackson Storm. And my only direction for that track was like, without calling him a douche, he's a douche. So make a track that kind of sounds like that. And so I did The one thing I thought of was let's just do a heavy electro song, and that was the right direction that I was given and I took. And
So did you watch like a lot of Night at the Roxbury before you made the
no, not that kind of electro. we're talking like Wooks from Denver, like heavy bass nectar type stuff. So I did. It was like a minute and a half, pretty short. But yeah, it's this scene where Jackson Storm wins the first race he's in against Lightning McQueen, and they meet afterwards, and he kind of like brushes his shoulder off at him and all this stuff, and then that song comes on.
Like in his face, in front of the cameras, he's like the nicest guy to him. He's like, oh my god, yeah, I can't wait to be next. I can't. And then as soon as that's over, he's like, yeah, dude. See you next. You done next way. Yeah, you done.
Like, look here, Carmelo hit the bench.
Yeah. I went on the flight back from a festival from Skitbags. That's when I saw Cars 3 in the plane. I was like, yo, this shit just blew my mind. That's what made me dive into the Pixar theory.
Rewind and let me do another shameless plug. The first episode from Skitbags Radio, our first breakdown is of Cars 3.
It is.
Pixar
Yes, it is. It is.
And I was asking Neil the night before, I believe, we called and text each other, and I'm like, yo, what do you want to break down? And he's like, yo, Cars 3. I give him a list. I'm like, yo, this, and he's like, yo, Cars 3, bro. And I was just like,
3.
What? And he goes, no. I dove down the Pixar rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
And he's like,
get ready. Just get ready.
You're not even gonna believe this. But yeah, and I'll go save it for the show, save it for the air. But how did you know, or are you aware? I should better way to phrase this question. About the Pixar universe and the theory that all these films are intertwined in different time periods.
Yeah, no, this is news to me. I mean, I think I may have heard something about it, but I didn't take it seriously, so I don't know really anything about it.
Google it.
It's legit.
Yeah.
I think. Well, because here's the thing: with animation, everything is intentional. It's not like, oh, it's a coincidence. We caught it in the shot and we wanted to put an Easter egg in there because it's live action. With animation, there's an animator drawing that for a specific reason, and that's costing time and money. And granted, animators can have their fun like directors and like actors, But when there's this many tie-ins, that's when I think it's like, okay, maybe it's almost like Tarantino-esque, where you got like Big Kahuna Burger, and a bunch of these different films or the Vega Brothers or something, and it's like, okay, maybe it started out as something that was minuscule and just for fun, but the longevity of all this, all this company and this franchise, I think they've done a really good job tying it all in together. And if this is by accident, then I don't believe in.
Then it's quite a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was just like every movie I'm looking for the Easter eggs. Where's the Pizza Planet truck?
Two things. Like, if you Google it, what they'll do is if you just Google Pixar theory, and then on the there's like a main page, and it looks super legit, almost as if Disney made it themselves. And it has every movie, not the sequels, it's just like the franchises, the way they've been released to us. And then when you click the start button, then they all like rearrange as to what order they are in the theory. And the whole theory, I haven't looked at it recently because I want to look at it again now that Coco has come out, and now Incredibles 3. I want to see how they all fit in there now. It has been updated, but the theory explains how the toys can talk. It also explains about like how animals can talk, and it has something to do with from Up. Remember, they create that device they put on the dogs. So they can communicate with each other. Yeah. And then they all go wild. After they kill the main guy, the bad person in that movie, he's the one who has all like the gadgets to make the animals talk. And then all those dogs that he had, they go free. So like that's supposed to be like the explanation as to how like
Interesting.
It generates like animals talking. Like I'm telling you, at first I thought it was crap too, and then I'm like, hold on a second, this actually does make sense.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant. It's like the thing they told me about Disneyland with the Mickey. There's a secret Mickey in every like room.
Hold on, you just
hidden Mickeys or whatnot. Like, and it's not in your cup, ladies, at night at the bar.
That was a good pun, dude. For you youngins out there, a Mickey is a roofie.
I just learned something.
Yeah, it's
You do,
called
that's right.
"Don't Get Slippery, Just Get a Mickey."
Right.
And like, yeah, it was back what in the '60s, '70s. Oh fuck! But just listen to any Bill Cosby episode.
Yeah, that's right. Slippy and Mickey.
What do you think with music? Here's what I wanted to really ask you: when you're scoring and composing for a film, where do you decide what inspiration to take from like modern day stuff? Where do you go original? Do you look at the film first? Like, what's the process like for a composer?
I mean, it depends on the director for the most part. I mean, sometimes they'll give you the script, sometimes they'll give you a rough cut, sometimes they'll give you a fine cut. So it just depends on the collaboration with the director, and usually there's a theme that's created first, and you go from there. If they like the theme, they'll just give you a little bit of free rein to say, here, do these scenes, and let's come back and we'll go back and edit those, and then it just kind of goes from there. I think the main thing that the director and producers of the movie are looking for is that what's the most important scene for us to convey music through, and they'll, as long as that's good, then you're pretty much good on the film. Obviously, if you're messing that up and you're taking too much time, they'll cut you and get somebody new. But as long as you can like help them convey their vision through music, you're good.
Ooh, have you ever walked into a meeting like with what you were delivering and you just like completely missed the mark? Like just cause he's just like, man, what the fuck? Like, has that ever happened before?
Yeah. But luckily I got, another chance. But I think it happens to everybody. I mean, I think you could even talk to the big, the big top guys, like, and they would tell you they've been cut from movies. And I think that's just a part of
process.
Life and entertainment out there,
Well, you brought up a good point that I really like to emphasize is that as a composer and being in charge of the music on films, your job is to you get a tonality from the director, but you really communicate emotion. Right. On that film. Yeah. One of my mentors, and shout out to Seth Trevelingo, but he always instilled in me, I grew up doing musical theater. Yep. And musical theater can be corny and cheesy at times, and which is one of the appeals about it. But really, when you think about it objectively, one of the things that really resonated that I still stick to this day that I implore in all my film projects is in musical theater, the only reason someone should break out into song is because their emotion got so intense that there's no other way that they can communicate it other than singing about it. So I feel like it's such an important job for music and composers to be on par with the cinematic and the film aspect about what's going on with the frames, how the cuts are edited, and also what's going on with the actors. Do you have any kind of interaction with actors or with editors or anybody else but the director before you start composing?
Mostly it's director, producers, and editors. The editors you probably spend the most time with the editors only because you're in some of the editing sessions where they're cutting the film and they're telling you, okay, well this bar right here needs to be extended, or you need to change the time signature here so that it fits with the cut better. Can we put some more percussion here to help drive the emotion and that kind of thing? When it comes down to it, in the ends of post-production, you're sitting with the editor and director doing all that stuff.
What are some of your favorite moments that obviously your own that you've created, but just observing in the industry as far as tie-ins with music and film? What do you see as highlights have been damn, that was a really good job?
I think in terms of films that I've seen, we've been talking about Marvel, but I think Guardians was a pretty awesome take on how to put music in a film. And I think that a lot of people are going to be doing that now. I mean, you look at Baby Driver, it was so similar. Yeah. And I think the directors were actually talking with each other about the two movies while they were being made. And that okay, you can't use this song. Really? I'm going to use it. And I'm going to use this song. And then score-wise, I mean, for me, man.
You seen Drive?
Drive, yeah. Drive's good.
I like.
Shout out to Kavinsky.
Yeah, the score on that shit is fucking dope.
Yeah, Kavinsky's great.
Yeah.
That was. Yeah. I mean, I was definitely part of that electronic college kind of generation. So Kavinsky was in there for sure. And then another guy, Gessa Falstein, he's a composer as well. But yeah, where was I going? Oh yeah, so films, I think Shawshank is probably one of my favorites.
It's a Shawshank TV show on Hulu right now.
Oh, it's called
really?
Castle Rock, and it's fan-fucking-tastic.
Is
There's
it?
only
Yeah.
3 episodes out, but it's good.
It's 9.2 rating on IMDb.
Is that the one with Tim Roth?
No, it's
No.
Stephen King and J.J. Abrams. It's like they're taking place. It takes place in Castle Rock, where like all like the Stephen King novels took. So it's like I remember watching one of the scenes where like in the background they mention about like a wild rabid dog being on the loose. You know, like it's like they hit you with the Easter eggs. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wanted to mention one of my favorite movies. The score that never gets brought up is Home Alone. I love the score from Home Alone, and me and my friends used to watch it so much that the score is like locked in my brain.
Yeah.
To this day, if something bad happens to me, I'm like, dun dun dun, and like I'll hum it in my head, or if I realize something, be like, dun 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 dun. Like I'll always. For the rest of my life, I will always hum those Kevin McAllister like crescendos in my head, like I will. It's locked in.
Yeah, the theme is very, very memorable and iconic for that. I think I that's one of those songs that comes into my head, and I'm like, how the hell am I thinking about Home Alone right now?
Because all those sounds came from whenever like he was alone and like
Yeah.
you see the old man. It's like dun 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 dun. Like oh shoot, he's talking.
Well, this was actually, we gear our show to people who are up and coming in the industry who want to be a part of it. You know, the kid in Idaho who wants to be a director or a film producer or whatever. So walk our audience through the process of, okay, I'm a director. Here's the script. Here's what I have ideas for. What do you want to do as a composer and as being in charge of all the music for this film, music supervisor, all that jazz?
Yeah, so the two sides, obviously music supervisor and then composer. Composing side, it's pretty much like what I was saying before. It's just you are given the film at whatever stage the director is most comfortable with, and you start working on a theme, and you start working on layering sounds and figuring out what you can always go back to as being that melody line that fits the film most. So you figure that out, and then you start working from there. Most of the time, you're trying to get rough ideas to them as quickly as possible, because they're trying to as soon as possible put things into the film that are going to stay there. Temp scoring is great, and it's an easy way to have that emotion portrayed. But the problem is if you have all this temp score in there, and the director, editors, and producers all start getting used to it, they're going to be comparing that to what you're making. And so as soon as you can get them stuff to throw in that they're happy with, the better it is going to be for you, because then you're not having to try and live up to the temp score from Pirates of the Caribbean being in the movie that you scored.
Right.
You know? And so, and then on the music supervision side, that, I mean, I have, the only experience I have with that is my job in Miami, and most of the time all that stuff is happening post-production, and you're filling gaps that don't have score in them, so your creative outlet is trying to find cool musicians and bands and people that are doing music that's gonna like help promote the movie and the musician at the same time, I think is the best way to do it. So like if you can find that artist that has this song that is like really, really big in the indie world, and you put it into a movie, and it all of a sudden like everybody starts listening to it because it's in this movie, I think you've done your job really well.
Sure. Synergy.
Likewise with a lot of people using the theme music of a movie is a track written for the movie.
Man, I actually do hate when I see like one movie and it has nothing to do with another movie, but it's the same like score to it, the same music to it. Yeah, and I can pick it out easily. Like I'm not even like that guy that's like, oh, I've heard but there's some of them that like the score from Armageddon. They've used that on so many occasions. Like,
yeah, well, if it's the composer, then yes, I would think, because that just goes back to the theme. Like, a lot of composers are comfortable in a certain key range, and certain musical, like, what am I trying to say?
Is it kind of like their style? Per se?
Yeah, they create their style. So, you know, like, a band or an artist will have a certain style and genre, and the same can be said for composers. You know, you have a certain thing that you're known for, and you use that influence in every movie that you've composed, and it kind of creates your trademark.
Yeah.
John Williams is known for these like huge orchestral movements, and if you listen to the movies that he's done, you can totally hear, okay, why does this sound so much like Star Wars, or why does this sound so much like Jurassic Park?
Yeah, you can always tell a John Williams song.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the most like professionally orchestral produced thing you've ever heard. I mean, he's an insane composer because he's able to do that. And apparently he, like, when he's scoring his films, he's not even really playing piano or anything. He's like sitting in a room writing notes, and he's just, okay, this is gonna go here, and then he'll like play one note, and then he'll write 8 bars of music, and then he'll play a chord, and then he'll write 20 bars of music. It's like, how is this guy doing this? And it's all in his head, but you know, that's what works for him.
I want to emphasize the importance of that, because like, as a person who can read and write music, and I'm sure you agree with me, when you hit one note and you write 8 bars of music, it's a language, and you have to hear all the rest of those notes in your head exactly on pitch and on tune. And this is one thing I was able to do it slightly when I was younger and doing competitive choral vocals and chorus and stuff, and doing sight reading challenges. Because sight reading, you get exactly that. When I go to chorus competitions when I was younger, they give me a starting pitch, and they would be like, read all of this, do it exactly, and then you can pass. And you have to be on pitch for everything. So you have to hear those notes. You have to do it so many times that you know what an E flat sounds like in this key. You know, and like that's a big deal. Like, it's very, very challenging. You have to be an expert at your craft, and by all means I was not, but John Williams is.
Yeah, and he's doing it for a full-scale orchestra, you know, so there's 50 instruments in there.
Yeah, at the minimum. What do you think about more modern musical stuff? Well, here's a good question. Musicals in film. What do you think about that? Like, what do you think? Where have we gone? Where have we come from? One of the things I was talking about on our show that I recorded before this was musicals that are film original musicals that were underrated, and then ones that have lived up to the expectation and got the accreditation they deserve. Ones that has gotten the accreditation they deserve, The Producers. The film The Producers, great music. It was a film first, and now it's on Broadway.
Right.
Same thing with Lion King. Now we have Lion King on Broadway.
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge. I mean, ones that don't get recognition are Idlewild from Outkast. And also, hate on me all you want, haters, but I'm going to drop Moulin fucking Rouge on you, all right? Now, those are all pop tunes that have been reinterpreted for the film, but goddamn did they do a good job about restylizing Elton John for a love scene between him and Nicole Kidman. And when you see Ewan McGregor battling with the fact that he knows that his love of his life is going to go sleep with this other dude for a gig, and it's the Police playing and Sting, and I'm just like, I never would have thought that you could take that type of poppy thing and reinterpret it. And I thought that was a really good creative pull. And yeah, everyone's put off by, you know, Christina Aguilera and Moulin Rouge and the soundtrack as being like very poppy in Hollywood. And granted, I'll give you that. But when you sit down and watch the movie, I really feel like it does a good job of what we talked about, like conveying emotion.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What do you think about new musicals coming out? Where do you think Les Mis, Phantom, some of the new stuff, La La Land,
I think,
where's all that fall?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not huge into the musical world. Like, I don't know what was a musical on Broadway or on stage before it was on film and vice versa. But I think, like, a great example of pushing limits and boundaries in musicals is Hamilton. I mean, you've got a musical that's completely done through hip hop and rap, and it's one of the best musicals I've ever seen. And I got to see it with the original cast, so it was unreal. But I think that just goes to show that, you know, music is going to change, and the whole culture of music is going to change, and people that are like, you know, trying to harp on the classicalism of it just need to, you know, not be saying that, because it's never going to be the same thing that it always was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for one thing though, me personally, I just don't like musicals at all. I don't like them. I'm not a fan. I don't like. I'm sorry.
Musicals are the greatest. Yeah.
You also don't like Florida until you heard about topless beaches.
Yeah. No. I know.
So more topless musicals.
I never disliked Florida. No, I'm just
Hair
saying.
is a
But
topless
it's just that
musical.
like.
Is it?
I don't know. The reason why I just don't like him is because it ruins the suspension disbelief for me. Like, it takes me out, even though it's entertaining. It takes me out of it.
Them kind of just like busting out into a song in the middle. It's kind of like, okay, hey guys, get back into character here.
That's the only thing about it.
Maybe you just need to see the right musicals, because like Bat Boy,
like Jay-Z, The Streets Is Watching was a musical.
What's the last musical that I seen that was pretty? Frozen. Frozen was alright.
I think that's different though, right? Because you're not seeing people, you're seeing animated characters.
Yeah, you see,
right?
Like,
it makes it easier.
You know what I like about the musicals that that are usually in animations, Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
The musical, whatever they're singing about, moves the story forward.
Yeah.
They're like it's like during a fight scene. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like they're singing, but it's like moving rather than.
That's all musicals, man.
No, but most when I see a
Every
musical,
does that.
musicals they move sideways. They're like it's like they're just singing about the moment rather than like.
I think you've watched Cats one too many.
I may have watched Cats. Won't you? Like what's the other movie that like the one when it's like they come out of the Disney characters, they come out into real life in Central Park.
Enchanted,
Enchanted. Like, I don't know. Like that movie was alright, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you're watching all these new stuff, bro. Go back to like Rodgers and Hammerstein, and that's a caricature of that era.
But if I was on
Broadway,
if I was seeing it live on Broadway, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother classification. Yeah, I love that. I like that stuff. But when it comes like to like a box office movie in the theater,
I know what you mean. It's like watching a play on screen. Like I felt like almost like some certain movies come across like that. Like even when Tyler Perry and them first started, I felt like sometimes the movies came across almost like a play on screen, and it didn't have the same cinematic effect that you expect from television and film.
It's something about the liveness of a show, and you can attest this to music when you're playing in a live band versus hearing like a DJ play a recorded track. Like there's something about that liveness that is always drawing somebody's engagement more. You yourself are in the moment, you know. So it's almost a different factor.
Yeah, for me, it's almost the opposite on Broadway. I kind of don't want to see a Broadway if it's not a musical. It's like this better be a musical. You guys better be singing and dancing in between. You know what I mean?
Neil treats Broadway like the MCU. Like there better be some fucking fighting. There better be some lasers shooting off.
Stands up in the middle of the play like, what is this shit? You ain't say nothing yet. It's been 3 hours.
Corbin, what do you think? What do you want to do in the future? Like, what's your dream project to work on? What do you want to do? What's your like? Oh man, I've been waiting for a thing like this or like that. Or I really wish this would have been a new take on it. Like, what from a composition side and a supervising side? What are you excited?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just composing feature films full time. I mean, as it is right now, I said I'm doing this, working at a recording studio, which is amazing. I'm basically the in-house like lead engineer, and I help manage the day-to-day, along with another guy that's from Tampa. So there's 3 Tampa kids running this studio. But at some point, I want to just be scoring films, and take on 4 to 5 projects a year, and that be my full-time job. Which it could be 30 years from now that happens, but who knows?
Ride the elevator up.
We're gonna talk off air, brother.
Oh, I got a question. Are you still making ceramics in your free time?
That hasn't happened in a long time.
I'm sure Dad is glad to hear that.
It's pretty expensive to do when you're not in college because you have to pay for it yourself.
Gotta go find a kiln.
Yeah. It was like in the glazes. It's like, man, I got this new glaze. It's a chain, yo.
Yeah, I really think we need to make a parody skit of Ghost now.
Right.
Corbin, Patrick Swayze from this
Yeah.
bitch. Just because.
I'll gladly
Using like
play
cutscenes from the actual
Patrick
movie.
Right.
Like now.
What do you feel like is a mile marker in the industry so far? Like, since you've been a professional now, you can obviously, it's easy to look back at people like John Williams who kind of preceded our professional days.
Right.
But since you've been a professional, what do you consider as like
who's pushing those?
Who's doing it?
I
Who's killing the
think-
game other than you?
The younger guys, Ludwig Göransson, he's a duo, so he is Childish Gambino's.
Ludwig, I know Ludwig.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool,
Well, I don't
yeah.
know him, but I know of him.
So
when you said, yeah.
he's produced all of Childish Gambino's albums, and he's the composer on Atlanta. He composed Creed. He did Black Panther. So he's one of those younger guys that's really leading the charge. And then another guy who he doesn't have as much recognition, but I think his music's really great. Is his artist name is Eskimo, so ESKMO. I don't know his real name, but he does the show Billions on Showtime, and he also did 13 Reasons Why. I think his music's pretty great. It's like pretty compelling. It engages you. Other than that, I'm not sure. It's just it's funny, the film music industry. It's so tight because there's so many of these legend composers that are still making music.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they're getting first dibs, and then all the other stuff is mostly these like smaller projects or indie projects that end up becoming big, like
Gotcha.
like Stranger Things, for example, with the band Survive and two of the guys from that band doing the music. I mean, apparently that show was pitched to literally everyone on the planet and nobody wanted it. And then Netflix takes it on and it becomes huge, and now these guys Survive are top composers in Hollywood. So it kind of just happens that way.
Elevator.
So it's kind of a tough game to get into, almost to the point where you almost kind of wait for somebody to die, pretty much. Because
Yeah,
it's
I
not like
mean-
your voice goes
Well,
bad.
here
When
at
you're a
Skitbags-
composer, like you can always hear music, you can always change it. Well, yeah, here's Skitbags.
Well, here at Skitbags, we may have those connections to make things like that possible.
No, I mean, it's just like, and the thing is you can't like take away from those composers. Like, I'm never gonna say that I'm gonna compose better than Hans Zimmer or Harry Gregson Williams or these big guys that have been around the game for so long. I mean, and that's the thing, is I think you need the experience to be able to like know how to compose for a film.
Well, what words of wisdom do you have for the up-and-comer out there? The kid who wants to be a composer, the kid who's sitting in their parents' basement right now playing music, rocking away
Or
on
making pottery.
With ceramics on the side. With ceramics on the
Working on a
side.
pot.
I'd say don't use pottery as your source of income.
Yeah, by the way, how much weed were you smoking when
man.
you were at Eckerd? We do this because I love Eckerd and I love that, but it's right by the water in Tampa. It is a liberal arts school. That's what you would think. A type of school that would offer a class
I was
like
in
that.
the art department, so
Anyway, no, but seriously, like, what do you got to tell from your experience, man? I mean, you went 0 to 100 real quick, honestly.
yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, I think I'm definitely, and I'm lucky for that. But I think really the main point is just like if you know you're passionate about something, and it doesn't even have to be music or entertainment related at all. It could be anything. If it's something that you know will make you happy for the rest of your life, you should figure out a way to make it work. I mean, I think that's what happiness is, in my opinion. If it's traveling, then travel. I don't think money can solve your source of happiness at all. And so luckily I'm in a place where I'm making money doing what I'm passionate about. But even if you're not, I think figuring out a way to like keep your passion alive is really the most important thing. And that's what was told to me when I was in college, and my mentor was reiterating that fact, in that like, as long as you have the drive to make it work, it's gonna happen. You're the only person that's gonna stop you from doing what you want to do. And especially if you live in the U.S., I mean, you have all those outlets, and for the most part, you have the option to do those kind of things. So as long as your passion is there and the drive is there, and you can just keep trying to figure out a way to make it work, then it's going to happen eventually.
Here, here.
Here, here. There you heard it. Ladies and gentlemen, the illustrious Corbin motherfucking Hayes dropping wisdom on me today. Yeah, well, anything else you want to shout out, or anything else you want to drop, man? Because I don't know if you could tell, but we just did over an hour.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah,
Seems
right?
quick.
This time flies, man.
No, I
fucking
mean, I
flies.
don't know. If you need a studio to record out of, hit me up.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, man. And if there's any point that Dash can possibly collaborate with you in any of your stuff, or you want a platform,
Yeah, I'm sure that we can work something out there.
well, we love our fam here at Dash. So yeah, we're gonna plug that. But anyways, let everyone know out there where they can find you. Where do you want them to be directed as far as like social media, website, content,
Yeah,
whatever you want? What do you want to plug, bro?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just see what I've done, IMDb is pretty much the easiest. You can see me on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram's probably the main one.
What's your handle?
It's just my full name, Corbin Hayes.
Ooh, no one and only.
Nice. Well, we're gonna go around the circle. We'll tag out Carl. Let's lead us off here. We'll go kind of clockwise.
Yeah, it's just Mr. C Enforcer, aka Carl Anthony, Poppy Carlo on the Instagram, Mr. C Force on the Twitters and whatnot. Always check out the Ding Dong Show on Monday at the Comedy Store at 10 o'clock. Always, of course, Dash Radio Life. Check out the Clapper on the Netflix. We also got another film called Office Uprising, which is on
Shout
Crackle,
out.
and I play a zombie in that one. So another good cool hookup on that.
Oh shit, yeah.
It's
I'm
really
a zombie
funny.
that one too. Am I?
Yeah, you in that too? You a zombie too? Yeah.
How do
yeah,
I
yeah.
get plugs into all of these movies you guys are in? What
Oh.
the frick?
Well, okay.
We already shot
first
these
you got to
before
meet
you
this
came
guy
on
named
board.
Harvey Weinstein.
Get out of here, God.
Damn it,
Wow.
we were doing so good, and then Carl's just got to bring it to the creep level again.
But yeah, check me out on those sites. Check out the Ding Dong Show as always. Check out GT's Comedy Jam, which is a great website. We have a lot of great shows going on around LA. And also, just because it's the end of the show, RIP, shout out to my man Charlie Lido, Chucky Fresh, man. One and done. Sorry to see you go, brother. You're the reason why we are here at Dash Studios.
Literally.
You're the reason why we know how to hang out and enjoy Los Angeles. You are inspiration on so many levels to so many people, and you're one that will be sorely missed.
Much love, Chucky. Chucky Fresh, yo.
Chuck.
God damn. Weighs my heart down. Love him to death. But, you know, I was talking with Nemo right before we started recording. That's one of the reasons I came back in late is we were talking about this whole issue with him passing and everything. And I said, you know, he agreed with me. We were both like, you know, the best way we can honor him and his legacy is by going even harder.
Yes.
And crushing what we love to do and doing what we're passionate about, which is why we're here.
Yeah.
This is why we're here.
Definitely.
This is why we're talking. You know, I love to do this so much so, man. I love you guys so much that I did this on my birthday. That my birthday happened to fall on a Sunday this year, and I was like, everyone was like, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I was like, "I want to record the show."
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do, you know. So it's moments like these that we, you know, there's times to live in the moment and there's times not. But in this time right now, let's live in the moment at least for the next few minutes and say, "What up, Chucky? We
Yeah.
love you. I'll see you on the other side, brother."
Yeah, same here. I'm on Life with Neil the Great on Instagram. You know, I miss my homie Chucky as well. I love doing skits with him. One of my fondest memories is him just asking us if he can just be in any skit. And
Yo, check out the Skitbags Facebook page for that
and
skit.
And I was like, you know what, I have a great one actually, and it worked out perfectly. And I'm so
He
grateful.
killed it.
Yeah, he killed it. I can't. I'm so grateful that I have that as my memory of him. Like, you know, I've lost a bunch of people. Like I'm sure we all have in our lives, but how many of them that you knew personally that you can like always go to a clip of them and it's straight out hilarious.
Yeah.
Not just to you. You can show it to anybody
Yeah.
and they'll like it, you know. And I'm glad that he at least left us with that. And yeah, I had so many great times with him, knowing him since I've been in LA. And yeah, that's how I'll sign off today. Yo, Gabby.
Hey guys, Gabby over here. Check out the Hermione Granger Quarter Life in Crisis series on YouTube.
Oh, yep.
start looking out for a Princess Collective series coming out with some modern Disney princesses. And you can always follow me, Gabby Shake, on Instagram and Twitter.
Awesome, and bringing us home on Instagram, Sailor_Dev as always. But we got a big shout out. You want to follow us on Twitter? It's at Skitbags Radio. And good news, you guys, the remodel of our website is dropping by the time this airs. So you will be able to go to skitbags.com and get a link to all of our shows and our projects that we're doing. Shameless plug number 3, Fight Dub. You gotta check that out on YouTube, where we dub our voices over professional MMA fights. We also dub over world star hip hop, movies, cartoons, anything you want commentary on. Imagine Mystery Science Theater meets The Fighter and the Kid or Desu Sumero. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. It's humorous take on our human nature of violence. Also, Film History, the history of film. Got that out as a podcast. And coming soon, the boys over here are developing and shooting Concrete News. And shout out to Will Toussaint, who is organizing that with you guys. I'm really looking forward to it, So we got all these plugs. We got a bunch of good stuff coming out.
Oh, yeah, one more thing. Always make sure you hit up GorillaFlix.com, GUERILL-FLIX.com. Make music video productions for anyone who's trying to get out there, make the scene, and the website is the perfect plug for you to, sponsor yourself and show yourself out. So, yeah, fuck with us.
Yeah, and you gotta make your way over to our YouTube channel, because I just uploaded some more Secret Stash stuff from Clusterfest. You guys haven't even seen. We haven't even released all the interviews. We haven't even shown you guys all the fucking footage with our headlining VIP stars, So you've just gotten the tip of the iceberg, but the content is still coming.
Just the tip, baby. Just
the tip.
You had to.
That should be our mantra. No, I'm just kidding. All right, and Skitbags Radio, we out!
We out!
Woo! Corbin Hayes, thank you so much. We love you, bro.
Skitbags Radio.